أحسنت. He joined not only the journey with Imam Hussain alayhi salam, but also he joined the army of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And when our beloved Imam was sitting and have a very special meeting with his relative and companions, with his brothers and sons and the rest of his companions, he was also sitting there. When our beloved Imam informed his audience, his companions, that the enemy will kill even his infant baby Abdullah al-Radi', he stood up. He stood up and said, how dare they are? They will reach our tents and kill your infant baby. While of course everyone knows that babies are not in the battlefield. And Imam al-Hussain replied, no, I will take him to the battlefield and I'll ask them to quench his thirst, but they will respond to my request with an arrow. And then he asked his leader, the Imam of his time, that, what about me? You're talking now not only about your companions, not only about your brothers, your sons, but also you're talking about infants, that even an infant baby of you will get killed and martyred on the day of Ashura. What about me? Imam al-Hussain looked at Qasim, the orphan of his brother Imam al-Hasan al-Mushtaba, and asked him, what is your perspective about death? كيف ترى الموت ابن أخي? And he replied that in your way, sweeter than honey. في نصرتك أحلى من العسل. So, look at how Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam actually talked to this young, man. I call him man because he joined the army of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Although he was a boy, 12, 13 years old boy. لم يبلغ الحلم. He hasn't even reached the puberty. He wasn't an adult person in accordance to Islamic jurisprudence. And Imam al-Hussain, when he wanted to talk with him, he talked with him that soft that I want to hear from you. How do you describe? How do you want to describe the death? What is death in your eyes? And the reply of Qasim surprised everyone. Of course, it won't surprise Imam al-Hussain because he's Imam. But the reply surprised everyone else when he said, في نصرتك أحلى من العسل. And allow me to make a comparison between this reply and the reply of Ismail. Of course, I'm not making comparison between Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan and Ismail, who was a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when Prophet Ibrahim told him, إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحك فانظر ماذا ترى قال يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. Okay, I saw in my dream that I slaughtering you. He said, okay, Father, do as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered you to do. And you will find me using patience. Amongst patience, ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. Yes, it's hard, it's harsh, but I will use patience. While you see that Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan replied to Imam al-Hussain that in your way, the way of Allah, it's even sweeter than honey. So yes, prophets are prophets, but the answer, I believe, of Qasim ibn al-Hasan is much stronger than the answer of Prophet Ismail, salamullahi alayhi. So Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam was so sensitive in disciplining not only his sons, but also his nephews and niece. He was not only teaching them, but he was actually disciplining them. Okay, tell me about the death. Let's assume someone has a child who is passing away. May Allah forbid. If he wants to explain the death to him, how should he explain it to him? He has to ask him, how do you see death? Death is not the end of the world. Death is actually just moving from this actually tiny world to a bigger and a huger world, barzakh, and then to hereafter, day of judgment, and then you will end up in heaven, inshallah, or may God forbid, people will end up in hell. So Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam was the most successful person on the earth in his era who actually disciplined not only his sons and daughters, but also his nephews and nieces. All of Imam al-Hussein's sons and all of his nephews, even boys of Lady Zainab, were killed in the Battle of Karbala. Even some of Aqil's, his uncle's grandsons, were killed in the saga of Karbala. But just put that in your mind, how they reached that high ranked and that high position, that actually they were so eager to die before Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, although they knew very well that Imam al-Hussain will be killed eventually. How? I'd like to answer to a misconception now, that people might say, okay, why Imam al-Hussain gave Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan the permission to fight? Although he was only a kid. Was that suitable? Was that suitable to give a kid a sword and allowing him to enter the battlefield? If we put the circumstances back then into considerations, of course, it was the most suitable thing, an act. Because just put that in your mind, that when Imam al-Hussain was laying down, and one of the enemy wanted to kill him, Abdullah ibn al-Hasan, Abdullah, the younger brother of Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan, He was also son of Ramla, the widow of Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba, salamullahi alayhi, rushed to Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, and he was killed on the chest of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. So Imam al-Hussain knew that eventually al-Qasim will get killed. Yet, we see that Imam al-Hussain did not give him the permission to go to the battlefield till Al-Qasim ibn al-Hassan started to kiss his uncle's foot. And Imam al-Hussain didn't want to belittle him. That boy was kissing Imam al-Hussein's foot. Imam al-Hussain did not see that as an appropriate for the orphan of Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba, and that's why he gave him the permission. So I don't like those misconceptions when they see the modern world and straight away come to Imam al-Hussain, try to judge Imam al-Hussain with their filthy minds and say how Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam gave the permission to Al-Qasim ibn al-Hassan to fight against the enemy while he was a kid. Just look at the enemy who killed even Abdullah al-Radhi'. Even Abdullah, they slaughter him. So definitely they would kill without any hesitation Al-Qasim ibn al-Hassan al-Mujtaba salamullahi alayhi. So Imam al-Hussain was the most successful person to discipline people, to teach people, to raise kids in his life, because his perspective about kids was a magnificent perspective. He used to think about them as treasure. Once Imam al-Hussain hired a teacher for one of his sons. The historians did not mention the name of that son. I don't know, probably was Ali al-Akbar, I don't know. And that teacher, and also they did not mention the name of that teacher. That teacher taught that son of Imam al-Hussain Surah al-Hamd. And of course, historian did not mention as well. Did he teach him how to recite Surah al-Hamd, or actually he taught the son of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam how to understand and comprehend Surah al-Hamd? I don't know. But historians mention, and this is a narration actually, Imam alayhi salam mentions that when that son went to Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam and recited Surah al-Hamd, Imam al-Hussain went back to his teacher, وَمَلَأَ فَاهُ دُرًّا. He filled his mouth with treasure. Some of Imam al-Hussain's companions said, that's a lot. You don't have to do that. A single coin, golden coin, will suffice him. Why all that money that you gave that teacher? He said, أَيْنَ عَطَاؤُنَا مِنْ عَطَاءٍ. He taught my son Surah al-Hamd, the most important chapter in the Quran. So he was very sensitive about his kids' Islamic studies. And that actually shows us we should be sensitive as well if we want to follow Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam about our kids' studies. I'm talking about Islamic studies, not only academic studies. If they don't know Arabic, take them to Arabic school. I'm talking about Shia Arabic school. Okay, that's another problem that we have. Some might say, okay, I want my son to learn Arabic, and Shia schools are very expensive, so I will take them to other sect school. No. This is wrong. No, they won't teach him religion. This is wrong. Inappropriate. Especially if you want to put him in that school to study for 10, 12 years. eventually he will end up being affected by their belief. Take him or take her to Saturday schools, Shia Saturday schools. This is important. Our kids are our responsibilities. We have to take care of them. Not only about we have to take care of their health, academic education, but also about their religion. We have to teach them Arabic, correct. But if you want to teach him or her Arabic, take him and her or her to a proper school. Take them to a school that you don't fear for their religion. And this is important, very important. Especially in Melbourne, I've seen too many people, religious people, putting their sons and daughters in non-Shia Islamic schools because they will end up after 10 years end up being able to recite Quran without any mistake. What about the tafsir al-Quran? Can you guarantee that they don't lose their religion? And that's something else. That's something else. So we have to be careful. Teach them yourself. Let the mother teach them. Let's try. Let's put some effort for our kids. It's our responsibility. Don't put the responsibility on others' shoulders. Teach them by yourself. If you know how to recite Quran, of course, you're not a teacher. That's okay. You can't teach him perfectly. That's okay. But you can teach him something. It's better than taking them to schools that I fear for their religion if they attend those classes and those schools. And I invite all of my youths, brothers and sisters, to join. We've got a internet seminary. It's called Join the Martyr Seminary. I'm pretty sure that some of you are enrolled in that. It's internet. It's actually all of the classes are on the internet. We have some Telegram groups. We put all of our news there. We have few hundreds people around the globe joining us. Too many classes. And some of our actually students now starting to deliver speeches, even to write books, to run courses after 2 years of studies. I invite all of you, those who are actually interested to learn religion in depth, to join this seminary and to start studying, especially that we have most of our classes on the internet and YouTube's, probably 95% of them have been recorded, and they are intensive courses and classes, because at the end of the day, for people who live away from Islamic countries, it is very hard for them to move back to their countries to understand Islam in depth, but it is much more convenient. It is convenient for them to use the internet in the right way and to study, taking those classes or other classes, any seminary, as long as it's not philosophy and Sufis. Go with any seminary as you like, but study, because in the future you're gonna need those studies and informations to educate your kids. Don't say that I don't need them now. What about the future? Can you guarantee the future of your kids? So you need to educate yourselves. You need, oh my sister, you need to educate yourself, because you will be a mother sooner or later. And you need to teach and educate your kids with Shia Islamic studies. So you need to study. You need to listen to speeches. You need to attend majalis. But majalis are not enough, especially for those who live in the West. They've got too many misconceptions and myths in their minds. Too many misconceptions and myths. Especially nowadays, when you see that they teach our kids everything in their schools but ethics. But how they have to be a proper and a true human beings. They teach them science and mathematics, but not ethics. They don't discipline them. Rather, they usually tell them, go and do as you like and as you want. This is wrong. We have then to educate them. Look at Imam Hussain. Do you think that Imam Hussain actually bought the loyalty of his sons and his nephews coincidentally? Of course not. He worked for that. He did not only teach them, hired teachers to teach them, but also he was the very good role model for them as well. If you don't want your kid to lie, then don't lie yourself. If you don't want your kid to yell, then don't yell yourself. If you don't want your kid to be a con boy, so don't be a con man. If you don't want your kid to be impolite, so be polite person. Respect. If you want your kid to treat your or his wife in the future with dignity, so treat your wife with dignity. Because usually kids and children look at their parents, fathers and mothers, and they learn from them. So we have to be a very good role model for our kids. We have to educate them. We have actually to bring them to Hussainiyat, not only, as I said a few nights before, not only in Muharram, but on weekly basis. Because every human being needs to be preached. I've heard that of some of my teachers, that Shaykh al-Ansari, radwanullahi alayh, Shaykh al-A'zam, he passed away 100 years ago, around 100 years ago. He used to say sometimes, probably on Thursday, that we have to stop studying today fiqh, jurisprudence, and fundamental and usul, and to go and actually to listen to a preach, to a maw'adha, to a saying of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, so we can get our hearts revived. We can revive our hearts with the maw'adha. أحيي قلبك بالموعظة. Revive your heart with a preach. We need that. We need to give our kids that opportunity as well. Help them. Go with them. Make time for them. Yes, you've been working for 5 days. On Saturday, you took them to school, and now, a Saturday night, you need to go with your friend. No. Simply just leave that and go with your kid to a center. Pressure your parents to do that for you. Because it's not for you now, it's going to be for the next generation. for your kids and for your grandkids. It all goes like a flow. إنهم فتية آمنوا بربهم وزدناهم هدى. You either, if you are an old man or a young man, if you take the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and try to bear it in your heart and try to apply it in your life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will consider you as man. إنهم فتية آمنوا بربهم وزدناهم هدى وربطنا على قلوبهم إذ قاموا فقالوا ربنا رب السماوات والأرض لن نتخذ من دونه إلها لقد قلنا إذن شططا. If you just put that decision in your mind to stay on the right path, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the brave heart to do that. Look at the mother of Prophet Musa. وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَى قَلْبِهِ. She actually threw her son, the Prophet of God, she threw it. فَإِذَا خِفْتِ, if you fear for him, throw it in the river. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to her, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّكَ مَا يُوحَىٰ. We revealed to your mom how she did that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave her the brave heart. How Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan actually entered the battlefield and fought against the enemies with a sword. With a sword. Even without a shield, because he wasn't able to hold the shield. He was so young for that. He wasn't able to ride a horse. He went there walking towards the enemy. How he did that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the brave heart. The only thing that we need is to have the intention. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do the rest for us. The intention we have to make, and the rest will come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we have to, actually, this is the test, to have the intention. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help us. Azm wa irada. We have that in some of our supplications and prayers. That a decision of the believer can rescue him from hellfire and put him in heaven. He came to his uncle. Oh, my uncle, give me the permission. I'd like to fight against the enemies. And of course, Imam Hussain didn't accept. When he first heard him, but eventually he accepted, and Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan got killed. It was so hard for Imam al-Hussain to see his nephew Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan martyred, that he put Allahu Akbar. When he wanted to carry him, he put his chest on his chest. And the narrator says that وَكَانَتْ قَدَمَ الْقَاسِمِ تَخُطَّانِ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ. While he was carrying him, I saw that the foot or the foots of Qasim were actually dragging on the ground. In other words, that Imam al-Hussein's back wasn't straight. And then he took him to the tent of Shuhada and martyrs, and he put him right next to his son Ali al-Akbar. And he started to look once at Ali al-Akbar. And the second time he started to look at Al-Qasim alayhi afdal as-salatu was-salam, and he started to weep and cry. Just imagine when Lady Zainab heard the voice of Imam Hussain alayhi salam crying for his nephew. Lady Zainab's responsibility was so hard that she used to look at the battlefield. She used to look at Imam al-Hussein. She used to care of Imam al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi. She used to come to him. She used to calm him down. جاب ومدد ما بين اخوته وظل ينحب عليهم وهم موت بس ما سمع عن النسوان صوته طلعت عمته تصيح الله أكبر. Lady Zainab came to Imam al-Hussein, hugged him, oh my brother, calm down. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take revenge for you and for son and for your nephew and my nephew. How hard it is for Imam al-Hussein to see Qasim ibn al-Hasan, and how he was injured like his father Amir al-Mu'mineen, because the enemy attacked Qasim on his head. Probably he was remembering his father Amir al-Mu'mineen, and not only crying for his nephew but also crying for his father Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Assalamu alaykum ya ala bayt Rasulullah. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. السلام على قلبك الصبور سيدي. السلام عليك وعلى الشهداء من آل بيتك ورحمة الله وبركاته. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. قال سيدنا ومولانا أبو عبد الله الحسين في دعاء عرفة: وعطفت علي قلوب الحواضن وكفلتني الأمهات الروان.